Alright, with half of the year now complete, I thought I would make a video to re-up some of the goals that I had this past year and some adjustments that I need to make. I mean, I'm constantly working on some areas to improve in my life. This past year, I made a resolution to get over my social anxiety revolving around loud noises. I figured this was a perfect year for that because we would have to slowly ease into those loud activities anyway. And at the beginning of the year, we were still in phase one of the lockdown, spending a lot of time at home. But even then, I started practicing by watching a lot of YouTube videos. I watched the New Year celebration on YouTube as it was live, and watched a lot of things that were outside of my comfort zone that I hoped to achieve once we did get out of our homes. Now, I before we went back into lockdown, this was back in August of 2020, I took up bowling because it was something I liked and I needed exercise anyway, and also it helped me with loud environments. And the first couple of times I did that was very painful. Now I like it, but at the time it was very painful. Unfortunately, I had a little bit of a setback, though. Back in April, when we first went from phase 2 into phase 3, we were allowed to go to these board game clubs, and you can imagine how busy it was because everybody, all of a sudden, they get to go out again. And I had a major anxiety problem that required me to pull myself out of there. And I was so disappointed at myself. I mean, it's not like the board game club was life or death to me, but I realized that I had work to do in terms of making myself a little bit more social. I have professional problems relating to not being able to socialize with others due to the career that I have. It's very important that I be a little bit more social. So that was very disappointing to me. I had another setback. I'm living in Phoenix, Arizona right now because we're working remotely 100% again. On my way into Phoenix, I decided to spend some time in Las Vegas, and I had a very difficult time. I didn't get an anxiety attack again, but I just didn't like it. And that really bothered me because, again, professionally, I have to be able to socialize with some of these people. You know, I'm a professor, and I feel a lot of my peers get where they're at by being social and connecting with the right people, maybe having a drink with the right people, and when they're drunk, you know, the right things come to the table. And I feel I missed out on a lot of that. Not to say that's the most important thing in the world, but I feel I've missed out on a lot of those casual benefits at work. You know, when you're drinking with your boss and the right vibe just comes along. That's what I'm shooting for. I mean, Las Vegas is not the most important thing in the world to me, but it was practice for that, and I'm really disappointed that how badly I failed. So I hope to practice it more. I'm only 4 hours from Las Vegas now. I'll probably spend some time there again at some point, and so I think I've already improved a lot. Because years ago I would have had a significant meltdown there. At least now I just don't like it, that's all. The other reason that I want to be able to go to Las Vegas and actually like it is because a lot of people do not relate to the way that I like to vacation. And as a result, a lot of times when I want to take a vacation, my request gets completely poo-pooed because people don't realize how important it is for me to go to Gdansk Bay, Poland, go to the Rocky Mountains, and if it weren't for the pandemic, I still wouldn't have spent any significant time in the Rocky Mountains because people don't see it that way, and they just you know, your coworkers need to go to Las Vegas with their family, you know, why don't you fill in for them? That's the sentiment that happens at work. I mean, they don't say it out loud, but that's the sentiment that comes up at work too often. Anyway, but hopefully if I can adjust a little bit what I do for vacation and be a little bit more normal, hopefully that will be out of the way. In 2020, I made a resolution to normalize my relationship with food. I was out of control with food. I had lost a job over food craving kind of problems. I walked out on the meeting because I couldn't wait to get up to my favorite food. I had social problems. I had professional problems. At the beginning of the pandemic, I couldn't find my favorite foods, and it caused a lot of strife in my life, if you will. Now, I started intermittent fasting to try to reset my appetite for food, and I want to say that I've been doing well, but there's one catch to it. So, when I started intermittent fasting, I very quickly normalized my appetite. The problem is that my habits were harder to change than the physical appetite. What I think of as my normal portion sizes, I still have a hard time adjusting for that, and it's forced me to rethink about delaying some gratification. Right? Let's say there are 10 things that I want to eat, but realistically, I should only be having 3. I'll just have to remember that there's always tomorrow, there's always next week, there's always next month to enjoy those other items, right? And in fact, by having a more normal relationship with food, I might end up eating more food in my lifetime because I'll have more years to eat them, right? That's what I've been trying to do. The problem is that someday I'll want to go on vacation again to another country, and I'll only be there for a week or 2. And I'm in China, and I want to have all this bat soup, but I need to. I can't be overeating, and I can't tell myself that 2 weeks from now I can have some more because I'll be heading back home to the United States. That's what worries me. I mean, it's already happened to some extent, right? During the pandemic, when I had to move around so much. I mean, not with various food items, but I make important connections with the locals, sometimes at a restaurant, and and then I realized, oh my God, 2 weeks from now I'm moving to another city, and the idea that I can delay gratification doesn't seem to work so well anymore. I came to realize that problem. Now, early on in the pandemic, I had another more serious problem. I'm still battling this. I had difficulty with intermittent fasting at the beginning. And I came up with a hack. It's a dangerous hack to play, and it's not exactly healthy, but let me talk about it. So I discovered every time I would get into a disagreement and get angry at somebody, I would lose my appetite. And I kind of got addicted to using that hack in order to increase my fasting. So what would happen is, usually I would stop eating at 11 o'clock at night, right, and go to sleep. Now the next day, let's say it's 2 p.m., so I've been fasting 15 hours now, and I'm kind of struggling, right? And I go out to the store, and I get into an argument with one of the other shoppers who takes the last pack of toilet paper. I'm not even that upset, but I get into an argument with him anyway because I'm bored and I'm struggling with fasting, and we shout a few obscenities at each other, and all of a sudden I've lost my appetite. Sometimes I'll even thank the person that I just argued with, saying how he helped me lose my appetite. That's how funny it got at the end of it. Sometimes I would get into a road rage with somebody on the highway after fasting 15, 16 hours, and then I would lose my appetite, and then I would go to the 24 hours or even more. And at first I was using it as a hack, but then I kind of got addicted to it. And this past week, I unfortunately, I kind of relapsed into this way of thinking. I had gone 24 hours, but I wanted to stretch it a little bit more, and I went onto Facebook, and I got into a serious argument with one of my friends over biases. He was talking about Pride Month, and I said, well, single lives matter, and he just didn't think those were the same category. And he said that I was just being lonely, and which is my big pet peeve. I literally want to be accepted for being single. When I say single lives matter, it's not like I want to meet somebody or I'm lonely or something. I literally mean single lives matter. Treat me for who I am. But we got into a heated argument, and it got very heated to the point that we were threatening each other, and I lost my appetite. And I ended up fasting another 5 hours after that. I gotta stop doing this. It's not good for my social, my professional life, and I'm only trading one problem for another. At the beginning, I thought I was using it as a transition to get me to a healthier lifestyle, and then I'll stop doing it. But unfortunately, it hasn't really turned that way, at least not completely. I still rely on it a little bit more than I really should, and I need to stop. Now, these were the two big resolutions I made these past 2 years. There is another one that I hope to work on, which is to find an identity for my social life. See, one of the big problems is that some of the hobbies that I have, I like to collect coins, as you guys see. You can't really make that the center of your social life, right? For obvious reasons, right? Safety issues and all that, right? Oh, I love to go out to the countryside to stargaze, and that's, there are some people who are anti-space exploration for whatever reason. There are others who just don't understand what's going on. I like to write computer games. I'll be celebrating 10 years of writing computer games this December. Unfortunately, that's a very small social circle. It might not be offensive, but it's a very small social circle. Despite the fact that I work with computer science, not too many people like to do recreational computer science after they're done with their work. I think that's the problem. It's a very small circle. And so I've been trying to look for something that will become my identity in my social circle. I think bowling has definitely helped, but I need to add to that. Unfortunately, like I mentioned earlier in this video, loud social environments are very tricky for me. For some reason, bowling has been a kind of an exception to that rule. I need to find more of those exceptions in my life. Anyways, some new goals for the next half of the year. Feel free to leave a comment if you've had to make updates to your goals this year and any twists and turns that may go on.